So this is a video about the difference between sawn timber and PAR timber, or planed or round timber. So sawn timber comes from the sawmills, and essentially that is a rough board. Planing process is where you machine that so that it's smooth and regular. So planed all round, otherwise known as PAR, or in some cases PSE. So planed all round, planed all round, PAR, or PSE, planed square edged. Different ways of saying that. Also, cut to width would be a sawn expression. So CTW, or cut to size, CTS. But those are going to be sawn finishes. So a sawmill will give you the sawn finish, and then it's a machine shop at a timber merchant that will essentially, or they often call it a mill, but that will give you your planed finish as well as other different cut profiles and so forth. So this is the difference that you'll notice aesthetically between a sawn and a planed finish. So we've got a couple of different options here just to explain. So these are three different hardwoods. So we've got maple here, hard American maple. So you can see the huge difference between a sawn board, which is incredibly rough, and you often kind of get those sort of sawn marks on there, and then a smooth planed finish on the maple. Exactly the same here, but with European oak. If you look with this, it's very irregular and very rough, and then you get the smooth planed version. And then finally, this is an American poplar or tulip wood. And you can really see the difference between the two. Tolerances vary from different timber merchants and different mills. But with us, we allow for, when you put the sawn board through the machine, we allow 3 millimeters off the top, 3 millimeters off the bottom in the thickness. So overall that's 6 millimeters. In the width, around 8 millimeters or 10 millimeters. So whenever you're buying a sawn board, if you imagine that a sawn board may come from the sawmill as a 25 millimeter or an inch thickness, if you're allowing for that 6 millimeters to come off in the thickness, it can come down to around 19 or 20 mil. If, however, you're taking millimeters off in the width, if the board was 150 mil or if it was a 6-inch board, you can imagine in the width that planing process is going to take off about 10 mil. So allow for it to be around about 140 or 142 millimeter finish. So as you've seen from these different hardwoods, the difference between the sawn and the planed, a lot of the time the obvious difference is that they are a lot smoother. But it's not just about making that timber smooth when you plane it. Part of that planing process and that function really is to make the board go from a very irregular or tapered sort of shape that you get, where it's really rough cut at the sawmills, taking it to something more regular, more parallel and square edged, which means the edges are perpendicular and the geometry is right, so that when you want to start your project, everything is plumb and straight, and it means that you won't get any intolerances. When you butt two pieces together, for example, if you were making a worktop, you're not going to get gaps, tapering and opening and going wider in the middle or at the ends, because everything is true and square edged. Really important tip when you're thinking about whether or not you want to have sawn boards that you plane yourself, or whether or not you want to get boards planed from your timber merchant or your mill, really important to remember that when something goes wrong in the planing process, for example, you may have knots fall out, which are called drop knots, or it might be that the boards split somehow when they're being planed, or you get what is known as tension release, where when you put in a piece of timber through the planer, it might be that, or when you're cutting it, it might be that it pings off and bends and you end up with curled timber. That kind of thing, when that happens, you often find that you'll need to get another piece. It's no point trying to wrestle with that same piece. You want to get another one out of stock. Now, it's important to remember that when a timber merchant has to get another piece, they're just going to get it straight out of their own stocks and you won't have to pay for it. Whereas if you're doing this yourself in your machine shop, you may have to contact your timber merchant and buy another piece. Sawn timber and planed timber. Who are the kinds of people that may get sawn and who are the people that may get planed? That's kind of an easy one, that one really, because If you're wanting to work with timber that's planed or round, and you're getting a sawn board, the chances are that you're wanting to work with that yourself. You're wanting to do the planing process yourself, so you'll need the machinery. And they are sophisticated machines and they're complex, so you'll need to have the proper kit to do it. But the reason why you may want to do the planing yourself is because you are a joinery workshop or a carpenter, or you have a workshop and you want to be in control of the process of planing. So you may want to decide on your tolerances. You may not want to take 6mm off. You might want to take 4mm off. But to be in control of that planing process, to do it slowly and do it the way that you want to do it, that may be the reason why you want to buy your boards sawn from a timber merchant. Or maybe you've got a huge company and you do a lot of machining there and you buy a lot of packs of timber, and that part of the process of planing timber is just what you do regularly anyway. However, on the other side, if you're someone that doesn't have any of the machinery and can't do any of that planing, then you'll need your timber merchant and their mill for that planing process to make sure that it's done properly and professionally so that you get the quality that you need.